I was born in Peterborough, Ontario, March the 28th, 1938. Makes me an old timer. All the guys I hung around with, they were all playing lacrosse at that time. I guess I was 10 or 11. So they said, well, get a stick and come on out to the bowl and work around and have some fun. So that's how it started, and it carried on. And I think one of the senior players, the Petes used to hire them for the summer, and that's part of the deal that they made with the Petes, that they coached the kids coming up. So and Jerry Fitzgerald was my first coach, and Harry Whipper, I think he was my second coach. And then after that, we were playing in league games, so didn't have to go early in the morning anymore. So there it was. So it was kind of neat. And we go and they'd show us how to shoot and check and play against one another, the whole work. So it was great. It was good to do that. You know, it killed the summer is what it did. Yeah, it was actually 4 teams that they won, 51-55. They brought in Moon Wooten, Curly Mason, Rusty Slater. And Peterborough was an industrial town. A lot of General Electric was there, Outboard Marine was there, Westclocks was there, De La Valle was there. So they had lots of places for the guys to work. So that encouraged the guys to come and play in Peterborough. And well, Mason, Curly Mason, Moon Wooten, and Rusty Slater, they won the Mann Cup the year before when they played for Owen Sound. So I guess Peterborough bought all their main players, so that was the end of Owen Sound, basically. So in Peterborough, 4 years in a row, they were the best team in Canada, really. Oh, yeah, every Friday night, yeah. We used to sneak in, so we knew how to sneak in because we played there every day. So, but when I played junior, they used to bring us up and play on Friday night because a lot of the guys went away on holidays and the whole work, so they were always shorthanded. So there was always 1 or 2 juniors that played on Friday night for the Petes. I got a lot of chances to play, and 1956, they brought me up for a Mann Cup in Toronto when Nanaimo beat Peterborough. Well, we didn't do, I think we only won 1 game, but Nanaimo had a great team that year. They had a lot of ex-Peterborough guys that played for them, Whipper, Don Ashby, Arnie Dugan, Bobby Allen. So there was a lot of influential people in Peterborough at that time that were part of the Petes. So they were able to raise money and bring all kinds of players in to play for Peterborough. So, well, from 51 to 57, Peterborough was the main team in the East till we went back. Well, I got picked up in 57 to play in the Mann Cup in Victoria, and we all got suspended that year. So, no, it wasn't a happy story. It wasn't. We got there and the CLA treated us fine, and we went out for the warm-up, and all the head honchos from the CLA came in and said, Bobby Allen can't play. And we said, what do you mean he can't play? Well, I think Ed Blair was president of the OLA at that time, and he said, he can play for you guys, there's no problem. But when he went back to play, Ed Blair said, no, he can't play. So we said, well, if Bobby Allen can't play with us, then we're not going to play. So they suspended us. They cut us all our money off. So here we are, we're going to pool all our money out, and we took the train back home. 3 days on the train. It was a good trip, though, actually, basically. Yeah. I could have stayed and played for Welland Crowland, I think it was. Came out in our place to play, and they got beat 4 straight. So, but we didn't have any trouble with them all year, so we knew they weren't going to get past the 4th game. So, well, yeah, it was a dirt floor, eh? And yeah, you could put spin on the ball, you know, on an overhand shot. You could spin it one way or the other, depending how you did it. But it was a great bowl to play, you know, to play lacrosse in, you know. But some of the other places had the dirt floors also, but they had gravel on there, and you'd get your knees all skinned off. And I think St. Catharines had I think it was called the Hague Bowl, I think, something like that. And it wasn't like the bowl in Peterborough. Peterborough played a Mann Cup in I think it was 55, I think it was. and they played in the Miller Bowl, and it rained and rained and rained. And the guy, the caretaker of the came and he put the fuel down and used to burn the rain off, the water out of the puddles and the whole works. But anyways, it was they had to take it into the small rink because it was raining too many days. So when I came out in '59, we were at a practice, and she was in the stands watching us with a girlfriend. So the bus had already left. So Paul Parnell looked after the rink at that time. He says, "I'll get the girls to see if they can give you a ride back to the hotel." So Joan and Marlene were there, and Pat Baker and I were the last ones. So they drove us back to the hotel, and we said, "Would you girls like to come to the game tomorrow night?" So that's what happened. I ended up marrying Joan, brought her back east in Peterborough, and then we got married in December, and then March or April, we came back because I wanted to play out west. And we went to Victoria, and then and she was behind me the whole way, and stood by me, with my right hand, really. And then that year we had a baby, a son, Randy. And then we lived in New Westminster, and then in '62 we bought a house in Westminster. But she was always with me, went to every game. We just lived around the corner from the rink. My son's Randy. He's a funeral director. He worked for the city of New Westminster, and then he worked for Vancouver, and then he ended up working as a funeral director. He was a off-ice official for the Canucks, so he did off-ice games. He refereed minor hockey for over 30-some years. He's not refereeing anymore, so he's had enough of that. He's a good golfer. He played a bit of hockey, not very much, because he's kind of small, so he gets shuffled around quite a bit. So my other child is my daughter, Penny. She married to Darryl Fletcher, who was also a hockey player, played minor hockey in New Westminster. And they had two boys, Todd and Brent Fletcher, who were great hockey players. They both played Junior A for merit, and they both played lacrosse. Todd played a little more than Brent. Brent didn't like it as much as Todd. And Brent ended up getting a scholarship, and he ended up playing in Alabama, for Huntsville, Alabama. So he was there for 4 years, got a degree in civil engineering. He married a girl from Alabama, so they're living in Alabama. My other grandson, Todd, he works at Cougar Paper. That's where my daughter and son-in-law both work there. So the whole well, I worked there, and my wife worked there. So the whole family has worked at Scott and Kruger Paper. So. Rusty Slater and Moon Wooten, and not Moon Wooten, Curly Mason. I used to enjoy watching those two guys play. Rusty had a great shot. He had a sight on it, like the way I shot. I think I took it off Rusty Slater still. And Moon, sometimes he was a little, he was a head hunter at times. Like in those days, you could like that over the guy's head and the whole work. You got away with it, but nobody would fool around with Curly. Yeah. I think it was because when he made the stop with the ball, he flicked the ball up in the air and it went up towards the moon. I think that's how he got. I'm not sure, but I think that was probably the reason why he got the name Moon Wooten. What happened in '57? We went 7 games against Brampton. Bobby Pulford was playing for Brampton at that time, and he was a good lacrosse player. And they beat us in Peterborough in the 7th game. And Mush Thompson, he was the coach for Brampton. He came and wanted to know if I'd play for Brampton, and I said no. I'm going with Peterborough to Victoria. So, but we never. And our 57 team, we all moved up to senior the next year because everybody in Peterborough got suspended. All the Peterborough players got suspended. So we were the junior team playing for Peterborough that year in the senior league. So if we would have been playing junior, we'd have won the Mann Cup, I'm sure, because we had some great players, Coombes and Ferguson, You know, Baker was our goalie. Yeah, we had a great team. Kenny Rattan. But look at that. I think there's about eight or nine players on that team are in the Hall of Fame. Carl Brill was, Carl was going to go out, and he finally, he got a job and he couldn't go, so he gave them my name, so they got in touch with me, and Victoria got in touch with me, and they offered me $500 for the year, and they paid my travel expenses and the whole works. So I rented a car, and we drove out, my wife and I drove out to Victoria. So that's how I ended up in Victoria. We didn't have a good year that year. So I ended up playing intermediate football for Victoria, and then in the wintertime I played hockey in Victoria. So I played 3 sports in Victoria. So I got to know a lot of people in Victoria. Around February, I working for this Saanich, and we were out clearing bush and somewhere, and it was miserable and raining, and there was about 6 or 7 guys there, and I was the only one working. So enough is enough. So my wife is in New Westminster because her parents lived in Coquitlam. So I went over and I said, I'm not going back. So I ended up moving into New Westminster. And I guess it was March or April, I went up to number 3 hall, talked to Jack Fulton. And I said, are you interested in another player for the team? I said, because I won't be playing in Victoria. He says, yeah. He says, we'll see if we can get you, and we'll go from there. And so anyways, I ended up with a tryout for the Salmonbellies in '61, and I made the team. So until '75, I was a Salmonbelly. They had a lot of good juniors that year, you know, that were, they won the Mann Cup the year before. So they had some really good juniors coming up, Gates and Saunders and yeah. So I had to prove myself is what I had to do. So great anticipation. He used to run the odd man play center, and he'd go in and he'd set you up so that you were by yourself going in to shoot. Nobody was checking you or anything. He was great. He was a super guy. Yeah, I always put him at the #1 lacrosse player. He was unreal that way. Yeah, his anticipation was great, and he was a good shooter. He could grab a stick out of a brand new stick, and he could use it that night. I could never do that. I'd have to break mine in, but he was unreal. Yeah, and he had a good shot. Yeah, and he was a fun guy. Yeah. Well, he always had a good joke to tell you, and because he played NHL hockey, so you know he knew things that went on in the NHL. So he'd relate stories like that to you. So. Well, I guess my best buddy right now is Cliff Sepka. You know, when I started in '61, I wasn't playing with Cliff. He played with Jack Beyond and Ivan Stewart, and I think the next year I ended up playing Cliff and Jack. From then on, we were close as heck, you know, and we still are. I had a place at Birch Bay, and he ended up in the same place that I had. So we were great friends, and you know, there's a lot of camaraderie on the team at that time. After the games, we always go to the Russell Hotel and load up. And Ray Rudin used to load up the table with the $10 beer and the whole work. So it was great. Les Norman was our goaltender, and Les was another character at times. And then Skip Chapman played a couple of years for us, and Donnie Wallace played with us. And then Joe Como became available for us, and Joe was a really good goaltender. Yeah, he'd make the big save for you, and you'd get the ball and run down the floor and score. So that's like getting 2 goals that you were behind, and we were ahead with 2 goals. So yeah, Joe was a good goaltender. Yeah, I don't know why Coquitlam cut him, but anyways, he ended up playing with us. So yeah, we went back east, played in Brampton, and funny, we were in some hotel in Brampton, I don't know, and it was really a dirty place, you know. CLA put us in there, and we beat Brampton 4 straight. Yeah, Billy Job. I thought he should have won the Mike Kelly Award that year, but they gave it to Beyond. But Billy had a great marine shot, underhand shot. He played really well that year. Yeah, played well. And he was a good checker too. So I would have given him the Mike Kelly award that year. But beyond, it was from back east. So, but he had a good series too. So we beat Brooklyn. Back east? No, I was in New Westminster. Yeah, and that was I think one of the guys hit Whitey Severson or something. One of the players, if I remember correctly. And it was, they had a lot of they picked up about 7 players that year. But anyways, we ended up winning. They had a guy by the name of Castater, who I hated. I played against him in Brampton. He took me into the boards and I ended up with a concussion. And the fire chief wouldn't let me play the 7th game. But we won anyway, so. I always remember that hit that he gave me. Yeah. We never had helmets in those days, eh? I went into the boards head first. So. Every Thursday night when they played us in Queen's Park, the rink would be full, that's for sure. And so they made money for us with the rivalry that we had. Because the splits were based on the people in the attendance, so. There were some great games against Vancouver, yeah. Well, in '62, we went 7 games against Vancouver to win, to play back east in the Mann Cup against Brampton. So that's how close it was. I think Vancouver won in '63, '64, and we won in '65. And then I think Vancouver went back east. I think they won the Mann Cup they played Peterborough, I think. It was a televised game. We won the West in '68. We won the West 69, 70, 71, 72. We didn't make the playoffs in '73. We won the West in '74. So we had a real dynasty in the late '60s and early '70s. I used to throw up before every game, I was nervous. Whenever I ate, I'd lose it pretty soon afterwards. So, well, that was another thing when I was in Victoria. The coach had me over for supper, and he said, I went in and threw up, and he said, that's the last time I'm going to feed you, he said. So anyhow, but I used to go to when I was in the fire department, I'd go to the rink in the afternoon and shoot the ball around, so I knew everything was okay with my stick and at that time. So, but I tried to lead, but I wanted to be the best as there was with the team, so I always tried the hardest that I could. So I worked at the game is what I did. So and I think a lot of it rubbed off on some of the younger guys also. So they saw what I was doing and they figured, well, if he can do that, why can't we? So I guess it a little bit rubbed off on them. So Harry McKnight and Jack Fulton were 2 executives on the team which worked in the fire hall. And Spider Graham also worked there also, and Jack Cowie kind of did things, managing stuff with the equipment and that. So I put my application in, and I also applied for the police job also. Charlie Mackey interviewed me, and he said, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to make the police department, which was really good because I ended up getting in the fire department, which was really good. So I got in because at that time they were getting away from the working all night, all day Saturday and all night. So they were going on 4 on and 4 off. So they had to hire eight guys. So I was the 8th guy to get hired that year. So Doug McCrory was there, Shuttleworth was there, Rudy Reisinger was there, Dave Torrey got on the fire department, Wayne Goss got on the fire department, Wayne Bellwood got on the fire department. So there was Billy Job was on the fire department at that time, and Rio Jerome was on the fire department. So there was a lot of Salmonbellies on the fire department at that time. There was great friendship that were made because you worked with the guys and then you played lacrosse with them too. So you were with them quite a few hours of the day. When the Rayonier fire in 65 or 66, we all got called out. And so we called in Vancouver to help us fight the fire. So we were supposed to play against Vancouver that Saturday night. They had to cancel the game because there's nobody left to play. Well, I remember we were lucky to get into the playoffs that year. We were in the third place. We played off against Vancouver, and we won 7 games with Vancouver. And then we had playoff against Coquitlam, or Portland, and we beat them in 6 games. So we ended up hosting Detroit, came out and we played them. We had an interlocking schedule because when we went back east, we played 4 games against them back east, and they came back out the west, and they played 4 games against us there. So I think what brought our team together was because we had a lot of young players that came on. We ended up with great chemistry with the younger players. They fitted in really good, and they were great players also. So that was a good year for us, I think. I enjoyed that, beating Detroit, because we were called the world champions at that time. So when Zosky and Wayne Goss, they used to go out when we had to kill a penalty, and they rang the ball for 2 minutes. No, you couldn't get the ball off them. And then after 2 minutes, they go down and score. So the East didn't like that because that's when the time clock came in. Because of Goss and Wenzowski, they kind of killed the sport with penalty killing type of thing. So they were great at that. You couldn't get the ball off them, yeah. I think it was 55 games we played that year. Normally we were in the 30 games. So, and Bishop ran the Detroit team, and he used to bring up a lot of good players, like he did when he won the Minnow Cups with the team. That was the other thing with the juniors that we brought up. They lost to the Green Gales 5 times, so they wanted to win. And with Bishop running the Detroit team, you know, was good for us because they wanted to beat them also, and we wanted to beat them too because we didn't get along with Bishop. So, well, it was a good feeling actually. What it was, because normally you played them against 1,300, 1,400, but to have a full rink like that, and people were sitting in the aisles because the fire commissioner at that time, Jim Gilchrist, was the chief fire warden, and he kind of closed his eyes on that. But it was great. So yeah, it was a good feeling to play amongst, you know, with the crowds like that. Yeah. I could always hear my wife though. Oh, come on, Parnell, get in the game. Well, he was a lawyer. Well, I think first of all he was a school teacher, and then I don't think he wanted that job, so he went back to school, and he became a lawyer in town. So, and he was well, his dad was a good lacrosse player also. The whole family was. So obviously Mac wanted to take after his dad. So I never saw his dad play because he's a little bit older than me. So yeah, Mac was a great player. So I coached in '70 and '71, and I made him the captain of the team in 1970. Well, we should have won the series because they called back at least 10 goals where our stick was over that imaginary line. You couldn't put your stick over that imaginary line. It only happened to us. It didn't happen to Peterborough, but because Eastern referees made sure that didn't happen. So yeah, we should have won that series also. No, I wanted to beat them. So that was my message, was to beat Peterborough. So, and I was really upset when they beat us in back east in '69. So, but we got even with them next year. We beat them 4th Street in Peterborough. Yeah. Well, I won the Mike Kelly Award that year, so I think I had a good series against them. So, but after we played, I think it was the next year when Vancouver, we played them in the semifinals to win the West, and they hacked me pretty good that year, and I ended up with a black eye and pulled groin and the whole works. And I won the Mike Kelly also that year too in 1972. When I played against Coquitlam, Bill Bradley was my designated checker, and he'd check me up and down the floor the whole time. You know, it wouldn't let me. I had to work like heck to get the ball, but he was a good lacrosse player, but his job was to stop me. But some of the games he couldn't stop me. So I was dedicated that I wanted to beat him. So, but a lot of the guys wanted to check me. So because they wanted to say, well, we stopped Parnell tonight. He's not scoring on us. So anyhow, but I had from my waist down and my legs were pretty good. So I was able to take the knocks that they gave me. So. Well, the city always supported us really well. They were, whenever you needed a handout, they were always there helping you. And McKnight and Fulton used to have to go and make a deal with the city to rearrange different money from the rink, from the crowds and that. So, and the city were always supportive with us. And whenever we won the Mann Cup or anything, they were always there to help us out with the banquet or whatever we needed. So. And that was a great playing for the city. It still is. You know, the city is always good to lacrosse. I ended up becoming the secretary of the Hall of Fame. Jack was the president. And then when he retired, I took over the president of the Hall of Fame. And all these are new cases. These aren't. We had umpteen cases made in the Hall of Fame. We redid the Hall of Fame. One of the firemen, Ernie Angeluzzi, he built the cases for us. We worked at it. You know, we used to go down to the Hall of Fame and put things in. I went back east and got a whole bunch of stuff from the east and brought them out. And this is not, I mean, this is far from what we had in the Hall of Fame building. Archie Miller was a curator from Irving House, and he worked with us, did a lot of work for us. We hired when I was the chairman, we hired a girl for the summer, and the government paid her wages, so she did all kinds of research work for us, the whole works. Well, when Jack Bionda died, we had a deal at the Elks Club. And the alumni, we started the alumni. That was over 20 years ago. And I was the treasurer of the alumni. I never took on the chairman's job because I was too busy with the treasurer job, and the odd time I'd take notes for meetings and stuff like that. And I ran the golf. We ran a golf tournament every year, and I think I ran it for about 12 years. And that was a big job, running the golf tournament. Finally, I said I've had enough running the golf. So a couple of other guys took it. Now Jack Fulton's taking it over. So I don't know what's going to happen with what happens when he's not with us any longer, because he sells ads for the programs and solicit the $100 dinner, and when you see him coming, you know something's happening. You better have your money with you. Well, yeah, we had a great coach. Well, he was a super coach, Ron Hemmerling from Vancouver. He was a character. He kept everybody laughing all the time. He was a longshoreman, and he says, I just want to work the weekends because I can take the whole week off because I make more money on the weekends. He played for Vancouver, yeah. He was a good lacrosse player, good checker, yeah. And he wasn't very good with a stick, but he's a good checker, so. But no, and well, like 73, we didn't make the playoffs in 73, so. And then we had a lot of, I don't think there was the draft didn't come till later on, so we were still able to use the Salmonbelly junior kids. So that's why we basically won with some of those. And we ended up winning the Mann Cup in 74. We ended up playing Windsor. Well, it was put together with a few guys from the east that played a bit of field lacrosse. Nobody in the west had played any field lacrosse. So Bishop was going to be our coach, but anyways, he ended up not coaching. So Jack Fulton was kind of running the thing. So when we went over to Australia, we used our lacrosse sticks. Well, it was raining, and the rain on the leather, it didn't help the leather because you couldn't shoot or score because you always had a hook. So it made it very difficult to play. But we did okay, but it rained quite a bit. We beat Australia, and then we lost to the United States, and we lost to England, which we shouldn't have lost to England, but we lost to England. So I think too many guys were partying when we played against England. So I played a bit of field lacrosse afterwards. A bunch of the Coquitlam guys got together. I ended up playing with a bunch of Coquitlam guys, field lacrosse. We go down to Seattle and play in Seattle and the whole work. So other than that, that's the end of my field lacrosse days. I got to know Ab quite well because Ab was at every game. He used to fix our sticks for us. So, yeah, after every game, Ab would come in and check your sticks. And I think he was the president of the Salmonbellies for quite a few years. An honorary president type of thing. He didn't do anything, but he was an honorary president. So he got his picture taken with us and the whole works. So, yeah, Ab was a great guy. Well, you had to work at it. Like I told you earlier, before every game, I go over to the rink, take shots at the net and the whole works. When I was a young kid playing minor lacrosse, where I lived up the street, there was a cement block building up there. It was a hardware store. So I'd have a spot on the wall, and I used to, for an hour at a time, go up there and shoot pretty near after school every day. And I could hit that spot probably 8 out of 10 times. So that kind of made my shot a good shot that I had. So I could pick my spot, so I had, you know. And I'd like to play now because the offensive players are on every other time now. And the nets are bigger too. So mind you, the goaltenders wear more equipment now also, but all you got to do is pick your spots and you'll score. Lots of times when the goalies come out, they lift a stick off the floor and you got that spot underneath their stick. And that's what I used to give them a little shot, fake, and go in and shoot and off. The stick would be off the floor and the ball would be in the net. Vancouver had a couple of goalies that if you were going for a long pass, they'd come out right after you know, and knock you flying. So you'd have to be careful with some of the goalies because you get hurt. I mean, because you're not expecting it. Yeah, and your back's to them and you're waiting for a pass. I think if most of the goalies, all you got to do is pick your spot, and you'll score most of the time. So most of the guys, they just shoot and they're hitting the goalie in the middle of the belly type of thing. But if you're picking your spot, you'll score. I used to shoot high, and that's how I got a lot of goals, anyways. And the assists, my teammates, I can thank my teammates for the assists that I got because, like Mac Tyler, I used to play the shooter and Mac played the point, the crease, and every time I passed the ball to Mac, it was in the net because the goalie would come out at me and Mac had the open net to shoot at. So that's the way that went. So when I shot, I kind of faked a bit with my stick and maybe give a head fake, but and that would get the goalie one way or the other. And I don't think my eyes had anything to do with it, so other than picking the spot I was going to shoot at. So I don't like it. I don't go very often anymore. No, I don't like the way now they got guys that all they do is check, and they can't even catch the ball. So every time somebody gets the ball, they run off the floor, and the attack comes on. So I like the way we used to play, but anyway, the game is different now, and I think it's faster than what we played. So yeah, you could beat one-on-one. I mean, the guys would pull their checks away, and you're allowed to beat one-on-one. But now I think they kind of play a box so that if you beat one guy, you had another guy who was going to check you right away. So the coaching is a little different now than when we coached. So none whatsoever. Had a great career. I ended up getting a great job. You know, and the job ended up because I played lacrosse. Basically, is how I ended up getting in the fire department. I ended up the fire chief for the last 8 years that I was on the job. So, no, the lacrosse has been good to me, and I wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't play lacrosse. So, you know, and I've enjoyed talking to you about the game of lacrosse. So, no, it's been good to me and my family. Yeah.